I've had over 40 pizzas in the last 30 days. Livy currently and Mark Shapiro should be in jail. He has no pizza experience. He's never been in the pizza category. I would just say, stay tuned. The day of reckoning will come. The record will be straight.
Why not set the record straight now? I mean, what is it about the record that's not straight?
Stay tuned.
Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's, you know, that whole deal. Well, it has a founder named John Schnatter, and last year he made a multitude of mistakes. The biggest was saying the N-word on a
Face of
conference
Papa
call,
John's pizza
which was then
is
brought to the
changing.
public's
This is after
attention.
the company's founder
Well, as a
admitted
result of the
using
racism,
N-word
the
during a
Shat
conference
Master was
call.
taken
John
off the board
Schnatter's name
and
and face have been
annihilated.
scrubbed out of the company
In
website.
response, Schnatter says that he was pressured into using the N-word
John
by the
Schnatter said that he was
call,
pressured
which
into
just
using
sounds
racial
ridiculous because I can't
slurs
imagine on a
now
conference
affecting
call
the
for
pizza
business
chain. Here's part of
they were
the letter
poking John
NBC
Schnatter in the ass saying, hey,
to the Papa
be
John's
racist, be
website
racist, be
yesterday.
racist, be racist.
And any
No, it's not that
language,
it's
no
been
matter
pissed.
what the
Fucking puts him to
context,
sleep and makes him
cannot
racist.
and will not
Incredibly
be
It was a
tolerated at
ridiculous
any level
defense
of
that he tried to
company.
come up with. But anyway,
Board of
fast forward
directors
till
of Papa
today,
John's
he's
accepted
been pretty
Mr.
quiet on
Schnatters'
most things. I was
invitation
able to
as
see,
chairman of the
and then he
board.
Have you read it? If you have, then you know the truth. We have all sinned against the one and only true Papa. On July 11, 2018, Father Jonathan Pizza was forced to resign under the pressures of modern society. In a ruse, the forefathers of Pizza Hut, Domino's, Father Murphy's, and Marco's Pizza designed an elaborate plot that would in turn result in the death of Father John, who is considered to be an intuitive and supernatural genius. What this plot entailed is that there would be no trace of John left over after they had taken every slice of his delicious, juicy self-esteem, and began bleeding money into such programs like the SJSJOFHB, which was an easy anagram for Suck John's Succulent Juices Out of His Body. Before we go any further, it's important to dive into the roots of John's history as an individual, and see what made him stand out far above the rest in regards to better ingredients. John was born in the quiet town of Jeffersonville, Indiana in 1961. By 1961, there had already been established monopolies within the pizza industry, all of which started off with good intentions, however eventually exposed civilization to such vast and abstract ideals at a time when civilization hadn't been prepared to intake such concepts. Now, while the forefathers of Pizza Hut would like you to believe that such exposure resulted in the stabbing of Julius Caesar in 44 BC, in actuality such an event was concocted by no other than the forefathers of Pizza Hut, which had been established 3 years prior in 47 BC. Their entire goal as an establishment was to set up a foundation from which each forefather, represented by 5 men, would benefit from the death of the biggest name in pizza, the man who invented pizza himself, Caesar. As to how Caesar gained the ingredients to mix together is currently unknown, however is widely speculated to have a direct involvement with the burning of the Alexandria Library, an event that would set human civilization back 100 years. Caesar would go on to create Little Caesars, and in doing so led us into the golden age of civilization. When cooked together with all variables properly in place, created a food so heavenly and intense that the masses had no idea how to respond. It's from this global confusion that imitators such as the Carney brothers use this to their advantage to form an uprising and spread misinformation about said dish. However, because Caesar was a dictator and ruled the Holy Empire of Rome, doing such a task would be very difficult to undergo, so they disguised their identities by using fake names. This is where the widely recognized names of Pizza Hut came from. Dan Carney stealing the name Pizza and Frank Carney upholding the name The Hut. Over the next 3 years, they would grow a cult-like following, and in doing so brought forth the other 3 major players into the game, the next 3 forefathers of Pizza Hut. The next 3 names to pop up as a way to maintain their secret identity was Domino's, Papa Murphy, and Marco, in that order. Flash forward to the death of Caesar, stabbed 23 times in the back. The forefathers of Pizza Hut would then rise up from the ashes of the death of Little Caesar's CEO, presenting themselves as the next alternatives in these dark times to carry the torch of all things pizza related. The major upset between pizza connoisseurs being that these new companies create a watered down product of a bygone era. While their initial explanation was that they didn't want to confuse and upset the populace with dangerous ideas that resulted in revolt, in actuality the real reason was simply just due to one factor. None of them knew how to make pizza the same way Caesar did. Brutus, the man who killed Caesar with his own hands, eventually led the helm for Little Caesars under one condition. Little Caesars would then be absorbed as a puppet to the Pizza Hut. This meant the Pizza Hut had direct control of Little Caesars, while still allowing the brand to keep its name as a humiliated tactic. They forced Brutus to reform to the watered-down fashion of pizza to conduct an industry standard. While the world mourned the death of the original blueprint for pizza, consumers had no other choice than to eat this new era of pies. This brings us into the 20th century with the birth of Papa John, or more formally, Father John. Since this tirade had been going on well into the current era, thousands upon thousands of pizza businesses have started up only to either be consumed into the Pizza Hut entirely or crumble due to financial restraints. And that's exactly how they want it to. In order to stay afloat as a business, the Pizza Hut offers compensation. Its vast wealth that it's emasculated over centuries have reached such a boiling point to where they offer generosity by becoming a monetized partner of said business. However, in exchange, it operates under the rules of the Pizza Hut. It conforms to the industry standard. While every business is allowed to make pizza their own ways, it has to meet a list of requirements in order to stay within the range of the Pizza Hut, rather an agreement. If you go against the agreement, the Pizza Hut effectively shuts you down, cutting off your funding and surrounding your business with more places that fall under the organization, meaning your local small-time business is now surrounded by global powerhouses of the industry. It is considered to be a flat line for your shop. Although the organization is also completely aware of how cruel and unreasonable this appears, which is why they have invested millions of dollars into making sure the public never finds out. False competition arises, leading the general public in the believing a false narrative, which in turn gives them a false sense of comfort. This was the world John was brought up in. This cruel and harsh reality of the industry is what John had been going up against. But he persisted due in part to one factor: a supernatural phenomenon that only occurs once every millennium. Somehow, he was able to emulate the pitch-perfect taste of true pizza like how Caesar created it centuries ago. A seemingly impossible task that's only appeared one time before him in the form of DiGiorno. Back in 1782, Dr. John H. DiGiorno, known at the time for his studies into the preserved culture of pizza, eventually uncovered the original blueprint to the legendary meal, or rather, an updated receipt of the original blueprint. While not being a verbatim recreation, it still held truthful enough to catch the public's eye upon immediate examination. The Pizza Hut attempted to control this upcoming struggle, as DiGiorno originally started as a franchise like any other, with tables and in-house cooks, so on and so forth. However, even though he conformed to the industry standards, he would recreate braille writings through the pepperoni of each pizza that would, upon examination, teach people how to make their own pizzas in the way it was intended, which inspired people to take the pizza home and recook it. This acted as a Kickstarter for DiGiorno's survival as a business, but we'll get to that in a second. Although John DiGiorno was able to get away with this for an extended length of time, eventually he was caught after Dave Brandon, the CEO of Domino's at the time, went undercover, purchasing a pizza from DiGiorno's and then spending hours upon hours analyzing the pizza to find out why sales for DiGiorno's were increasing at a rapid rate. DiGiorno's was kicked out of the Pizza Hut in 1982 and would spend the next 9 years conducting research to figure out how to market their pizza away from the traditional mindset in order to get this ideal pizza to everybody's dinner plates, eventually settling on making it frozen. However, the pizza suffered simply due to a lack of fresh ingredients, introducing preservatives to keep shelf life higher and costs lower, and soon enough DiGiorno compromised on the perfect pizza. John, though? John never did this, yet was always able to make profits come back until the very end. John was gifted upon birth with the supernatural ability to make better ingredients for better pizza. Ingredients so much better that they rivaled even the peak of DiGiorno's. Papa John crafted the perfect embodiment of the perfect pizza and consistently replicated it. How was it done? How was such a holy craft able to come from such an average man all of a sudden? Well, the answer is quite simple and can be explained using base level science. You see, God himself had gotten upset with the current state of pizza, as stated in Corinthians 12:13. He had let the charades go on for long enough and would soon choose his disciples. Now, contrary to popular belief, the Bible was actually written somewhat recently, as recent as 2013. Something else that they often forget to mention when advertising the Bible is that it's an ongoing story loosely based around the Dead Sea Scrolls that act as a prologue to the actual Hebrew text that would predict the future events of the Bible. In the Bible, it states that out of the disciples of Jesus Christ, a man named Judas would betray the Lord and seek out against Jesus. Now, if you had read the first half of this manga instead of skipping over to the later chapters, you would know that Jesus is actually just Hebrew for pizza. And Judah is actually a Hebrew stand-in for DiGiorno. DiGiorno went against pizza in favor of the wicked world when his frozen pizza plan proved to be financially stable, thus giving up on the Lord and instead choosing a lifetime of sin. However, in the Bible, John would be Jesus' closest disciple, eventually writing Revelations. There is no coincidence that John the disciple and John the Papa share the same name, thus proving that Papa John's is the greatest thing to happen to pizza. Now, initially, Papa John wasn't on the radar of the Pizza Hood. Granted, they offered him service and provided him the luxuries of being a part of the Pizza Hood, but they didn't take notice of him specifically because he seemed like such an ignorant and foolish man. But Papa knew. While Papa John was taking a scarily large sum of money, he was still able to avoid penalties from the Pizza Hood by secretly establishing an organization within the Pizza Hood that kept tabs on all the higher-ups and even the spies. He was able to outpay the Pizza Hood's medium-tier workers to spy on the inside by the copious amounts of free sponsorship he would receive during a time so early in the Papa John business that not even the public knew about it. Yes, Jonathan was in fact a high-class conspiracy theorist, did immense studies on the Dead Sea Scrolls, and was able to gain a lot of money for a secret pizza franchise he sprung up during his high school years. He truly was the next disciple that God entrusted to bring pizza back to its days of former glory. Using these spies, he would give the higher-up men lower-class pizza that conformed to their industry standard. Special pizzas made especially for them so that they could approve the franchise without realizing its true intentions. This had been working for 30+ years until one crucial decision came to tuition: the publication of the Bible itself. Its initial publication in 2013 put the Pizza Hood in a frantic state of mind. A lot of theories were coming out against the Pizza Hood, so much so that the only way they could have possibly combated it was to create atheism. That's right, folks. The Pizza Hood is directly involved in creating a generation of atheists who have a perverted perception of pepperoni pizza. However, atheism wasn't effective enough to combat the succulent tastes of Papa John's. It was here and then that the Pizza Hood took effective measures costing millions of dollars in order to perform more inspections on John's franchises without the spies from the inside finding out. A mass exodus involving the closest ones to the Pizza Hood took place, resulting in thousands mysteriously dying as they refused to sign off on their agreement to keep all things Pizza Hood related confidential. Granted, some of these deaths were by suicide as they were revealed to the world for the monsters they truly were, but for the most part they were all coincidental. So, you may be asking, if Papa John's was giving them so much trouble, why not close them down? The answer is simple: unwanted publicity. What I mean by that is, if they pulled off a move like that at that given time, everyone would have known that it was more than just a conspiracy. The conspiracy would have proven true, and regardless of how much money would have been poured into programs to spark this false competition, it would be blatantly obvious to the general public. Nobody could trust pizza. So instead, the current heads of the Pizza Hut retracted themselves to rethink their course of action. If they pondered a better plan for just a little while, they could come back as common collective and then would be able to better rationalize an ideal ploy to get themselves out of this mess and finally fire Papa John and banish him from the Pizza Hut. While this was happening, John was looking onwards in anticipation. With the release of the Bible and the unsuccessful attempt of creating atheism, there was no reason why he had to be scared. Everything was looking just fine. However, atheism had a special sponsorship: Bill Nye. Bill Nye would go on many anti-pizza conferences, debating the likelihood of God and planting a new idea into the minds of millions. Soon, Neil deGrasse Tyson would join in. Richard Dawkins, the man theorized to create atheism, would go public about being an atheist, and from there on out, Hollywood would soon succumb to this anti-theism redirect. Now we live in modern times, late 2010s to early 2020s. Atheism is at its peak. The first communist president is now in the chair. Edward Snowden, Mr. Rogers, Lee Harvey Oswald, they all tried to warn us. Yet they are all dead. InfoWars is continuing to fight the good fight, however they keep getting censored by our pizza overlords. Most Americans wouldn't have been able to know any of this was possible if it weren't for Papa John's latest book, fulfilling the prophecy of the Apostle John in fantasy times. In the final chapters of the book, John writes, "They made me say the N-word. They put a gun up to my head and forced me to say the N-word when I questioned our society. The accumulated filth of all their sex and murder will foam up about their waists, and all the whores and politicians will look up and shout, 'Save us,' and I'll look down and whisper, 'No.'" Oh wait, actually, I grabbed Watchmen. Hold on, let me get the right book here. Ah, here it is. Fuck Nick. After reading this book, I've decided to take it into my own hands. Using the Pizza Hut's algorithm in which they find out what people are saying about their brand, I've decided to tweet a highly intelligent coded message for all my Twitter followers to decode. I was soon discovered by the man himself, the current CEO of Papa John's. Upon his request to DM for a sponsorship, we quickly took this to Discord. His only special request for this sponsorship was a signed agreement that read, as long as I used this company as a sponsor, I could not cancel him on YouTube. However, what he didn't take into account was that I actually wouldn't listen to his demands. That's right, folks. This may land me in a lot of legal trouble, but it's for the better good on behalf of all of us. I am going to Papa John's right now to expose these monsters for the hack frauds they truly are. If you ever find this video and I've disappeared months or even years ago, you now know why.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody. Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody. Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody. Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody. Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing. Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing.
Right here in my hands, I have an abomination of a pizza. Papa John's without the Papa John. We're gonna go ahead and dive right into this. Papa, please forgive me for this. Just taste the fucking same. It just tastes the same. It just tastes the same though. It just tastes the same though. There's no difference. It tastes the fucking same.
You okay, though?
It's the same fucking pizza. It's the same thing.
You don't get it, Jaden. You don't understand.
I dedicated so many hours. And it's the same fucking pizza. It's the same pizza.
Papa John's, you whore! You lied to me!
You were supposed to be our prophet.
Walmart people, hear my plea! Papa John's lies to you! He's not our prophet! He's a scam artist! And he's racist! You're supposed to be our savior! But Jesus Christ! It didn't work! He's not Jesus!
Every trace of sadness, although maybe ever so near.
Fuck you, Papa John! I don't even want your coupon!
I'm trying to smile. What's the use of crying? You find that life is still worthwhile.
It's pretty okay.